Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Hey, you got
oh, sorry.
a nice background.
Yeah, no, I always want to get back to Hawaii because I usually go there about about 5 or 6 times a year. So this is a shot from Hawaii Life Four Seasons where I have a few camps. So I do a lot of the Zoom chats with this in the background. I haven't been there obviously with COVID. So
and is the Ironman in? It's typically in Kona, right? That's kind of where it all got started. Yeah,
yes, yeah, correct, Blake. Yeah,
my sister-in-law used to live there, and I've only visited once. And I remember, I mean, this is years ago, but I remember she and her husband taking us, and she's like that, and they would volunteer actually. Ganesh, I didn't even tell you this. My sister-in-law and her husband would volunteer. They're both EMTs and paramedics. They would volunteer, at the Ironman every year. And she's like, oh yeah, this is where they start over there, and the finish line comes in here, and this is where we stand with all of our medical gear. All these athletes are collapsing on the ground after the grueling event.
There is quite a medical contingent. They actually have a high finish rate, and Kona, where you're looking at, right, is about 22 or 23K into the bike ride. It's a beautiful, beautiful resort. It's Four Seasons. It's very opulent and wealthy clientele. And I'd ridden my bike by it probably 1,000 times, but never stopped for a cup of coffee because it was out of my price range. But I've had a camp there the last 5 years, and it's glorious. And so I feel lucky to be there. So I had this picture remind me, I'm missing 4 camps this year, and Ironman week and the Ironman race is coming up October 10th. Okay. So that's canceled or postponed, should I say, to 2021. So there's a lot of things going around Ironman week, but I'm not on the island. So this is my reminder, my backdrop.
Awesome, man. Well, and got this recording here. So just so everyone knows, hello to all the 1.4 billion people in India. This is Blake, and of course Vinesh, the founder of CBDstore.in. We're here with Dave Scott. Dave is about as top tier an athlete in the world as you could possibly imagine. This man has been the champion of 6 world Ironman competitions. Is there anyone who's won more than 6? Are you like the record holder?
Well, I'd like to sit on that lofty pedestal in that introduction you just gave me, Blake. But my co-competitor, Mark Allen, went on to win 6. He beat me in this sort of epic duel that came down the last 2K on the run, and he had a little more energy. So that was his first win after 6 tries. Wow. And then he went on to win 6 more. And really the reigning queen of Kona is Paula Newby-Fraser, and she's won 8 times. So the women have hovered above the men again, and she's really the queen. Yeah. So and this was quite a while ago. In recent years, there's been 3-time winner and 4-time winner Chrissy Wellington from the UK that I coach. But
and for anyone out there who doesn't know, just some people are going to know. I mean, but for anyone who doesn't know, an Ironman competition, I mean, it's a marathon. There's a 26-mile run. Vinesh, do you know what is that in kilometers?
I can tell you, Blake, because you're kind of fumbling through all this, so you've got the wrong order.
Yeah, it's swimming first, but I can never remember how many. Is it a mile swim? How many swim?
It's 3,800 meters. 3,800 meter swim. That starts off, and that's relatively short in comparison to the whole day. I do it a little over 8 hours, and some people are out there for 17 hours, and then you make an immediate transition to the bike, and the bike is 180 kilometers.
Yeah.
So that's a fairly lengthy bike ride. And then the run is a marathon run, which is 42K. So those are all kind of strung together, and
one after another.
One after another. Yeah, there's quite a range, 8 hours, and the cutoff is 17. So a lot of people finish at midnight, and unfortunately, I've had dinner at that point. But that was a long time ago.
Oh man! But for you to win that 6 times just blows my mind. That is incredible.
Yeah, you're basically the New York Yankees of the Ironman competition.
Well, Vanish, we'd like to think that the arrogantly that the endurance athletes are a little better health conscious and fitness conscious than baseball players. So, but it is permeating all sports. Sort of the health denominator, which covers a lot of areas and things we're going to talk about. But for a long time, and I'm not going to rag on the baseball players, but a lot of them just have had
You
kind
already.
of I already have. Yeah, they've had unhealthy lifestyles, and to me, I find it galling because endurance sports, the athletes really have to watch the whole health package to be fit year round, and I think that a lot of the major sports, certainly here in the States, they're seasonal, and when they're in the off season, a lot of these pro players are disgraceful.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like a common theme growing up watching sports was we would see when India would play England or Australia in cricket,
Yes.
we would always get beaten simply on the basis of fitness because the Australian and the English players, they would regularly hit the gyms. They would be like ripped jack dudes, whereas the Indian dudes were like pretty thin or kind of slim fat, skinny fat and stuff. So this was a very common theme in our life. Now it's changed a lot. Now you can see all the countries, they have fit players and stuff. So I totally feel that it's it's very important regardless of the sport you're in, or even if a person is not in any sport, to live a healthy life just for the joy of living a healthy life. Yeah,
exactly, and that's really the precedent above all sports and all athletes, is that what's your healthy lifestyle. A lot of athletes can't define that, but it is getting better. And I have watched a lot of cricket. I haven't traveled to India, but I've traveled to Australia many times, and I've watched those 3 and 4 day matches. So you go out and do your thing, you come back, turn on the TV, it's still going on. Well, these athletes have a lot of endurance.
They're kind of an Ironman of their own, that these games go on for 3 or 4 days.
I agree. That's remarkable.
That's funny. All right.
So, Dave, I must ask you, what's your history with CBD? How long have you been using CBD? How many years has it been? And what's your experience with it been like so far?
Well, I tried it about 5 years ago, but really in the last 3, I've been consistently using it. And I know we're going to get into some of these questions, but we're looking at using CBD for a lot of different reasons, athletic and health. I initially started taking it just for kind of anxiety and also sleep. And I mean, as you know very well, and you're in the industry, the different forms of CB1 and CB2 affect your endocannabinoid system. And so I did my homework on that, and I said, I really want to be able to kind of calm my crazy mind down at night. And so that was the initial reason. And then I started looking at the second form of just to prevent inflammation. And I think when we look at systemic inflammation, that has a lot of ongoing research with CBD. And so those were the 2 reasons. But I've now evolved, and we can cover this, into how can it really enhance exercise performance. So prior to exercise, during exercise, and also the recovery component. So I'm actually working with a company right now that we're infusing CBD with other different compounds to really enhance that whole profile. So from the time you wake up in the morning, throughout the entire day, athletic or healthy, recovery and sleep at night. But initially it was sleep and inflammation.
Can you see the fact that fitness is such a huge part of your life and overall, health and wellness? I mean, I think so many people, and I too, it's been about 5 years that I've been exploring CBD as well for very different reasons. I think people always ask, especially, who knew people who are interested in just learning about CBD, which is a big part of what's going on in India, right? It's like there's this whole, the growth that's happening there is massive, but there's lots of people who are just hearing about it, who are curious, who have questions. Can you describe, the difference that you've seen in workouts, training, and over in general health and wellness that that you've experienced as a result?
Well, I think the first thing when I just was talking to it affects all your organs because it's fat soluble, and it affects your brain. So, that calming sort of compound that we're working with, tryptophan and also serotonin, really has a sedating effect to me. So that's why I used it. And I find that I'm revved up, I'm calm after my workouts, but then quite often I come back to my office where I'm at right now, which you can't see. I'm back to work, and I don't finish work at the end of the day. I carry it all the way up through dinner and then going to bed. And quite often when I wake up at night, that's when I have difficulty. And so I said, I really want to take, and I've tried a lot of things. I've tried melatonin, valerian, and I think in combination, like 5-HTP, hydroxytryptophan, you have that with CBD. I think that's a real plus. And so I started sort of concocting my own CBD concoction and I'm looking into this actually for a sleep medication, which there are a lot of them out. And I know, Vanish, you probably have many on the market. So I think the stress that we feel, that our brains are overly active, that's why I initially started taking it. And yes, I do, to answer your question, Blake, yes, I do find that it can override, and it allows me to sort of be calm. I think about my breathing while I'm lying in bed at 3:00 in the morning to say I still need to sleep some more. Yeah. And so I take it right before I go to bed, and I take about 40 milligrams of it. So I take a pretty good dose before I go to bed, and I find that is helpful.
So for you, it's more been for calm, for relax, for anti-anxiety, for kind of, chill out your mind. It's more, you've used it personally more for that than like post-workout stuff.
Well, initially I did, but now I also combine it post-workout, because just my diet, which I know we're going to get into, and what do you think is good and bad about diet? So, the post part. I'm actually working on a formulation right now that has medium chain triglycerides, which enhances the absorption of CBD, and that's carbon 6 and carbon 8, and a little bit of carbon 10. And, people think of coconut oil, and that has some of the MCTs in it. So I'm adding on this recovery part, which is huge. I'm not a young guy anymore, but I still exercise like a fanatic. And so I'm looking at combining that also with an intake of omega-3s as well. So that's a huge thing. I think there's a huge consumption, unfortunately, here in the States and worldwide with polyunsaturated omega-6s. So I skew everyone to omega-3s. I want to put that in my recovery capsule, which I do. And I take actually krill in the morning, and I also take it at night or post-exercise, which is, I think a real plus, and combine that with CBD. Athletically, one of the things that sort of enhances the absorption and also is synergistic because it causes vasodilation is it's the most abundant amino acid, L-glutamine.
Oh, sure.
And L-glutamine, a lot of people put it together with the branched chain amino acids. So the recovery part, I put the BCAAs, leucine, isoleucine, and valine, but also L-glutamine as well, which is a vasodilator, and it's synergistic with CBD. So in a very convoluted answer, I like it post-exercise. I take it post-exercise. Sometimes I just take it orally. Sometimes I'll mix this in a little bit of a healthy, low-carb, high-fat shake, or I take it right before night. So. Yeah.
Vanish, note to self, man, we have to start carrying all these other products on the CBDstore.in site.
Yeah, definitely. And what I found very interesting also is how these things are so deeply interrelated. Now, Dave uses CBD for sleep, and when we sleep better, we recover better also. The next day, your bones, muscles, recovery, everything, it's all interconnected. It's all tied up,
Exactly.
So definitely I can understand where a lot of athletes, when they are training, they need to be really aggressive. They need to get that, testosterone out, adrenaline out, sorry. I can imagine it would be hard to just come home, drop all that aggression and get chilled and go to sleep. I personally, when I used to kickbox, I would find it hard to fall asleep. Like I would come back from classes, I would be up 5-6 hours doing something because that aggression hasn't left body and mind yet.
Right.
And what I guess that does is decrease the frequency of recovery, I suppose.
Yeah, you're right on target, Anish. I mean, I try to recommend people that if they can exercise in the morning or midday and not wait till the end of the day, because at the end of the day, I mean, two things are happening. You can produce a stress hormone, cortisol, and that's a good thing actually when you're exercise, but you don't want to go to bed when it's really elevated. And typically cortisol levels actually come up at night. And if you have elevated levels and then you kind of exacerbate the problem by eating poorly, you can have elevated cortisol levels right when you go to bed, which decreases the production of testosterone. And that's a bad thing for both male and females. That for recovery, you've got to have elevated levels of testosterone and in combination with HGH, human growth hormone. And we naturally produce those when we have good sleep and this aggression that you stated from working out. When people finish exercise and say, well, I'm going to go to bed in a half hour, I think it's a bad idea. One, you exercised maybe too late. You didn't have a choice because you got off work. And a lot of people, that's the only choice that they have. But you have to allow a little bit of downtime. And Blake, coming back to your question, sort of fueling yourself properly is really, really paramount for recovery, which goes along with sleep.
It's so different. I mean, I'm in the middle of your two ages. I'm soon to be 48, and I've led a very athletic lifestyle. Nothing really like what either of you guys have done, because Vinesh has done a ton of stuff with MMA and kickboxing and whatnot. But still, I've spent ample time in the gym.
Yeah.
And man, it's just funny to think back 20 years ago, whatever, when we just would hit the gym, just a couple hours. I mean, we'd go at it. I'm still not too shabby at 48.
I can kind of tell you got some muscle. You look like you're kind of internally rotated. So I want to make sure you're stretching your pecs.
Oh,
yeah, that's better. Yeah, sit up straighter, Blake. You're kind of slouched over. Like, yeah. I mean, I can kind of tell you got some muscle under that tight shirt you're wearing. But
it's funny. No one talked about any of this stuff 20 years ago. It's like you'd work out and then you'd go get a hamburger or something and be like, all right, that's what I did. And man, yeah. It's such a different age now. There's so much more technology to it all and science behind it all. It's just unbelievable.
Well, I think the bottom line, people want to age gracefully. You don't want to all of a sudden wake up one day and say, wow, I've had a bad week. Well, usually it's several years leading up to that bad week, and you finally you have these little niggling aches and pains. You're not recovering well. Your mind and body aren't flowing together. Anyway, excuse me, Vinesh.
Yeah, that's so good. So what I was saying is, Dave, like, how there are often fads coming out about different things. There was a time when L-argine was the fad. People also, you must have L-argine in your bodybuilding. And how can we ensure everybody that CBD is not just a fad, but it is a legit helpful thing and not a cheat in any way whatsoever for athletes in India and around the world?
Well, I think there's obviously a lot of misconception that the endocannabinoid system and CBD and THC are the same thing, and they're not. And we have that issue here with athletes, and also differentiating between the pharmacological effects of THC and the difference between CBD and how CBD really affects your whole body. It affects your organs, systemic system, lymphatic system, and the different types, CB1 and 2, kind of cover the areas that we've been talking about, from recovery, sleep, exercise, performance. And I think we're all learning about that, but the misstep or the misconception that a lot of athletes have is that, oh, this is a drug. This is a real bad drug. And as you know very well, the CBD works over time. A lot of people can feel the effects right away, but it's something that you're taking in smaller doses, which affects your entire physiology. And so I just look at it as I would take, as I'd put turmeric with my vegetables at night, or curcumin, or how it enhances inflammation. And CBD is can be very, very strong, and alleviates some of the athletic issues, but it's really about health. And that's kind of what I profess. I mean, I'm, like both of you, I'm crazy about exercising daily, and I exercise hard. But I'm not in my heyday of winning world championships. I'm well beyond that. But I'm also.
You could take us both anytime, bro.
Pardon me?
You could take me and Blake on
any day. I don't think so. I think, Vanish, if you gave me a kick to the ribs, I would fold. And I'm sure Blake can outlift me in the gym, but I'm still crazy about going to the gym, but also increasing mobility and flexibility, which is part of this health thing. And yeah, anyway, I think there's lots of different fads that we've kind of looked at, Vanish, that, people are adding different amino acids. Oh, you need to take this for such and such. And some are very synergistic with CBD, and also with healthy fats, which I look at in combination to, sort of enhancing this whole physiological profile. So I mentioned L-glutamine, which is the most abundant amino acid, and it's stored in the skeletal muscle and also the lungs. So a lot of people that have post-exercise, the window for inflammation and particularly upper respiratory tract infections is really elevated. So when people have multiple hard days and exercise, and all of a sudden, oh, I've got a cold, it's because a lot of times the L-glutamine levels are low, and the L-glutamine levels are really depleted even in one workout. And you can look at this after you do hard, heavy lifts like Blake does, and I do as well, that your glutamine levels are low. So therefore, you've opened up this paradox in this window to say, I can get sick right now. And a lot of athletes do. And when they travel, or you have stress, work stress, not enough sleep, you've had great workouts and now you're sick and you go back to zero again. So I'll just use myself for example. The sleeping has always been an issue with me, and for the reasons we've talked about, and I try to rectify that. I never get sick. I used to travel a lot, about 100 days a year, not this year with COVID, but I travel a lot. When I walk into a room, I'm the guy. I'm on. I got to be on all the time. A lot of times when I get home, I just want to, or back to the hotel. I don't want to talk to anyone. But I don't get sick, and I think there's a lot of preventative things that we can do, and CBD fits in this huge toolbox to enhance your health.
Nice. And so we got a lot of clarity on the physiological benefits of CBD. There is, even with a lot of the research out there, there is a lot of evidence pointing it that this is helpful biologically. Now what I want to address is the psychological perception about all cannabis based medicine. Now CBD is generated from the cannabis plants, and you know how the media has portrayed users of the cannabis plant, like basically like, hey man, like feeble, like the guys who are like, hey bro, I need to chill, bro,
that was a very good imitation. That's exactly right. Yeah, which is unfortunate.
So what would you say to those people who would assume that guys who consume CBD may not be as serious as people who would instead be perhaps doing steroids? Just kidding. Or perhaps doing not doing CBD.
Yeah. Well, I think you answered it well. I think ignorance drives a lot of people's comments, and when you don't know, and you're a huge resource because you're in the industry, and I feel like I am too. And I post a lot social media wise, and I put a quick little piece in about CBD, and I was scorned by a lot of people.
Really?
Yeah. And I said, don't let your ignorance override facts and good science. And so I've attached different science articles to it that I find, add clarity. I said, read this before you come out with your ignorance. And so I think, Vanish, what you're talking about is just, telling the people that it comes from the same species, but when we're looking at CBD and THC, they're totally different, and we don't have the pharmacological effects. But CBD can affect your brain very positively, without feeling like you're completely loaded or you've got the munchies from THC. So I have to override that a lot. And with athletes that I speak to in my audience, there's a stigma that, oh, this is really bad. And I had to overcome that as well. When I was in college here in the States, my athletic roommates would smoke marijuana all the time, and they had bongs and all sorts of devices. And I say, well, you're an athlete. I said, they're always very calm and relaxed, but I said, I don't think this is really enhancing your performance. And so again, in the States, the farm bill that was passed in 2016 allows us to cultivate it, and the research has flourished since then. And the whole thing on endocannabinoids, the research the discovery of it is relatively new. And correct me, I think it's early 90s that we kind of started knowing about this system. Well, so the information is there, it's raw, and I just, I love to have someone come in and kick me in the knees and say, Dave Scott, you're an idiot for promoting this. How can you do this? You eat pure, you talk about these other things, and you're telling people to take CBD. And I say, yes, it fits into my profile.
Do you have a sense of what percent of other, triathletes, Ironman competitors, I mean, even just high, top tier athletes these days, because I know you live in a more expansive world, of health and fitness and training. I mean, do you have a sense, just ballpark, like what percent of kind of high level athletes you think are using CBD these days?
Ooh, that's a really tough question. I don't know, Blake, but I know anecdotally of a lot more that maybe I'm surprised that they are taking it because they're well researched and they're taking for all the reasons we've discussed. I don't know what that number is. I think one thing is kind of interesting is that in the States, golf has a very big profile, professional golf. And, you can go down from Tiger Woods to Phil Mickelson and all the other ones. It's kind of gone in the golf industry primarily for calming the golfers when they feel a lot of stress and they got to hit that next shot. And so a lot of the golfers have come out, and have done this, and you can see them taking it. A lot of them take it, with a gum, and some are taking it sublingually while they're on the course. And I think a lot of the conservative faction here in the States, which we have a horrid number, and our dreadful president, that's a whole nother topic. They look at golfers and they say, wow, I had a higher level of esteem for X, but this guy is taking this, this CBD, whether it's a gummy or it's gum. Maybe I should learn more about that. So I think I can't answer your question. I don't know,
It is anecdotal.
It is anecdotal. And I don't,
but it's amazing how pervasive it seems to be now. It's like, oh, look, and especially you see all these celebrities that are having their brands now, Willie Nelson and
exactly.
Whoopi Goldberg, Mike Tyson. I mean, it feels like, so even, someone like yourself and all these high profile figures, you guys are helping to add validity and legitimacy to the industry, which is just invaluable.
Yeah, I hope so. And I'm, as I mentioned, without divulging, I'm working with a company to come out with a product line to cover this whole gamut. So pre-exercise, during exercise, recovery, sleep. And, it's not just a linear market I'm working with. It's not just the endurance athlete. It's, obviously I don't want to lose that alliance, but it's going to stem out from that, just like the actors and other athletes and so on that are doing the same thing. So, education is huge. Ignorance is a killer.
Dave, I have to ask you. So you mentioned that in golfing, people got a sense of calmness when they were using CBD, right? That psychologically they were in a better place. Could you share your own personal experience, how CBD has helped you, not just physically, but also psychologically in terms of dealing with stress, anxiety, and aspects like that?
Yeah, I'll give you just a little bit of my latest history, Vanish. In the last year, I've had 2 legal battles with agents. Agents represent athletes, even old athletes like myself. And I have a legal battle right now with another company. And it's not because I'm such a thorn or a nasty guy. I feel that sometimes company personnel want a level that I can't deliver. And I work hard. I work hard as an athlete. I work hard in business, and my day is etched out. So when I started going through this stress of paying a lawyer a lot of money to try to unravel this, and this was almost a year ago. It was the latter part of September, in 2019, where things started to unfold. I just said, I've got to do everything to keep myself calm and relaxed and not reactionary to these other people that are really basically coming after me. And so this evilness that I felt like, how can you do this? We had a trust. Well, we didn't really have a trust. They wanted to be manipulative. So, Vanish, coming to your question, I started looking at the different types of CBD, CB1 and CB2, and how that affects my brain, and so I actually take both forms, but the CB1 affects your brain as well, and I take that with some other supplements and compounds that permeate the fat soluble membrane. So I feel like I'm doing things that in combination with CBD really helped me psychologically. And I used last night, for example, I had this legal battle. I have a call with that person. Today is Tuesday here. I have a call with that person to end this relationship on Wednesday. I think about it 24/7. I had CBD this morning before this call. So I take a little tincture and I put it sublingually underneath my tongue. Not because of you two guys, you're very calming, but because of what's going on in my mind.
I hope the person you ended the relationship with also had some CBD.
Yeah, I can't categorize the people that I work with. I'm just kind of dumbfounded by their professional inactions. So I don't feel favorable about a lot of them at the moment.
You never know. There's always all kinds of level of craziness that can be going on in different people's lives. Like it's always interesting to see someone, like yourself, who's been as successful as you've been, who's so globally well known as you are. It's humbling as a reminder to be like, gosh, yeah. I mean, all of us, all of us are navigating stress and challenges, no matter what space in life, chapter in life we're on. Everybody has got some degree of stress and just hard things that they're going through in life. So I find it humbling to hear that. Thank you for your willingness even to share that little that side story with you. That's what you got going on right now. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Blake. We all do, and I think one of the things that was very difficult for me when I was an athlete, and I was world champion. I'm coming back to defend my title. Everyone always thought, "Oh, Dave Scott, you're invincible. Yeah. You're always up. You're always ready.
Totally.
Yeah, you're exercising every day, and your mind is so strong." Well, my family and close friends that knew me well through all those years and continue to do so, because during those times, I had many prolonged periods of depression.
Interesting.
Really? It permeates a lot of athletes, and certainly actors and entertainers, that seem to have this. And I knew Robin Williams, who
I was just going to mention him.
Yeah,
that blew my mind when he committed suicide. It's like, how can that guy have challenges? How can he have a rough life? He's Robin Williams.
Exactly, and I think that is the notion that there's people want to put you in on this pedestal, up in this upper tier, this box, that we're infallible, we're untouchable, we're invincible. And there were times I went home where my drug is exercise. That's my main drug because it elevates that morphine-like effect, endorphins. It makes me feel good. You guys know this well. And it's like an alcoholic. If I could control my exercise by not doing it, that doesn't make sense to people. We'll just go out and exercise. No, because I couldn't do it at the level that I wanted to. If I wanted to go out and ride for 3 hours, an hour and a half, lowered the bar so low, so I'd go to 0. So it's a form of self-infliction. It's very difficult for people to understand this. Well, just go out and exercise. You know you're going to feel better. Well, my standard was so high. People put me on such a high level. If I couldn't do it at what I felt was really going to make me world champion, then I'd go to 0. And it's no different than any other person that has a disease. So I wrestled with depression for a long time. I know I still have that seed within me. And just coming back to the exercise component, I have a steadfast rule and I adhere to it. And I've done this for probably 26, 7, 8 years. And I kind of remember the time when I did it. I was in a real low spot. And I said, I'm going to exercise and I'm going to tell everyone that you need to get out and do something, get outside. Don't do it inside, get outside. Your endorphin levels are higher for at least 20 minutes and start moving. And a simple example is, well, one of the activities I run. So I put my running shoes on. I feel badly about myself. I hate the world, all the above. and I put my shoes on and say, I'm going to go for a 20-minute run. It really doesn't do anything. But once I'm at about 10 minutes, all of a sudden your mind starts to flow. And that flow allows relaxation. And this is kind of a long answer, but you finish 20 minutes and you say, gee, I wish I had done a little bit more, but you're satiated. So you have this resolve that, okay, I can tackle the rest of my day and tomorrow I'll get back into a better routine. It picks you up just a little bit. So I remind people that I have a 20-minute rule and I don't care how busy you are. I travel, I get off and I say, gee, I got to go to this crazy meeting. There's dinner. I don't want to do this. I'd like to go exercise in the gym. I'm in New York City or somewhere. Yeah. And I say, okay, and the weather stinks and I'm going to run up and down the stairs here for 20 minutes. And I'm just body exercises in my hotel room and I'm going to be breathing hard and sweating, take a shower for 2 minutes and boom, I'm off. And I feel good.
Awesome. Awesome. That is, man, that's a gem right there. I really, really appreciate everything you just said there. I think that is a big deal because I'm sure that's huge, in India as well. Vinesh, all these amazing, Bollywood stars and singers, all these celebrities that are there as well, that everyone thinks, oh, they're untouchable. They're at demigod status, like, oh, they're how could I ever achieve, or how they're inhuman, they're not like, they're unrelatable. It's like, I can't relate to those, to those people, but man, we are.
Also, right, on that note, I would like to ask that we talked about athletes and celebrities who could use CBD because of the pressure and the stresses of their life, right? How about your everyday Uncle Joe? How about a guy who's doing a normal 9 to 5 job, right? Like an engineer, he goes to the gym 1 hour from 8 to 9 in the evening. How about for somebody like that? How can CBD help a guy like that? Get to his fitness goals. These are not like championship goals. He probably just wants maybe a 4-pack to start with, So that's starting with that. Yeah.
Exactly.
So maybe he wants to, just be able to walk about a few kilometers without having to call for a cab or something. The goals are modest here. So how can CBD help your everyday guy with the everyday goals?
Well, I think a lot of people are always looking, and I talk to the same people, Vinesh. I talk to people that just want to be healthy, and I've talked to people that are overweight, that have high blood pressure, that haven't exercised for a long time, and I tell them this 20-minute rule, which I just went over, but I said, you can start with CBD. It's huge. We know the physiological effects of CBD, not just for actors, entertainers, the super athletes of the world. For your position. I'll use yours. You're an engineer. You got a busy life. You've got 3 kids. You've got such and such and such and such. But I always come back to them and I say, you can't do just one thing and feel like you're going to have this complete turnaround. You know, we take small steps. And so introducing CBD, and again, it can be taken throughout the day for a variety of reasons and different types of it. But it also has to come in this health package. And I said, okay, if you're taking CBD, but you're still eating poorly, and you're eating very high levels of carbohydrates and very high levels of sugar, very high levels of polyunsaturated fats, you're not getting enough sleep at night, you're kind of just annihilating your system, even though you think you're doing one thing that's well. What you have to kind of look at the whole thing. So I don't look at any kind of supplementation where we're talking about L-glutamine or we're talking about omega-3s or CBD as one thing. It's not the panacea that you're going to say, oh, gee, you're going to feel a lot better tomorrow if you start taking this for 2 weeks. What else are you doing that you can incorporate? That's pretty simple. And so I usually give them a short list. It's not, well, you got 25 things that are wrong with your lifestyle and your diet and on and on. I give them 5 things. And I usually just give 5 things to start with because, you know, for lack of a better word, it's palatable. It's easy for them to say, you know, I think I could do that. I think I could eat less sugar at night because Vanish or Dave Scott or Blake said, oh, that will elevate my testosterone and human growth hormone, and I'm going to recover better. And if I have CBD and I have a little bit of 5-HTP for sleep, that also quells, a super hormone, ghrelin. And ghrelin says I'm hungry. So a lot of people that finish exercise late or are relatively sedentary, if you take the CBD at night, it's going to say, well, I'm not hungry. And I have this feeling of fullness. And that's the other hormone, leptin. Everything's connected, stomach, brain, stomach. You're getting this vagal nerve sensation. So if you combine that with, let's just start with the first 2, good diet, and you're eating healthy fats, less carbohydrates, less polyunsaturated fats, and you're having CBD, well, you made some big steps already.
Nice.
Definitely, Dave. And I'm so thankful that you actually said this, bro, because trust me that almost everybody we have spoken to so far, they have been very quick to kind of say like CBD is like a magic cure for all the problems in life possible. And the fact that you haven't, despite the fact that you are affiliated with the brand, you're a real OG. Awesome, dude, bro. Cheers. Yeah. And I cannot stress how important that message is, because so many people, we get so many because we're India's #1 CBD store, we get a lot of messages along the lines of, hi, will this cure my depression? Hi, will this cure my anxiety?
Yeah, right.
Hi, will this cure my broken back or something? And and in everywhere, I guess the answer is the same. It's what else are they doing also? It's something that complements a healthy lifestyle, but is not meant to substitute or forgive an unhealthy lifestyle.
Exactly. Well stated, Vanish. Yeah, no, I should interview you. So no, that was right on target.
I got 0 championships, I'm telling you.
Well, I agree. And there's a lot, if we go to the other end of the spectrum, there's a lot of athletes that will be world champions in spite or despite their bad dietary intake, and there's a lot of athletes that can override one area of health. And my first response is, gee, they could have been a lot better.
Exactly.
And I'll use a real example. Chrissy Wellington, I coached her. She's from the UK, and she was 4-time Ironman champion. She is the best triathlete of all time, both genders. 13 Ironman races, 13 wins. So her very first one she won and went on to win 4 world championships.
Wow.
When I first got her, she was already good, and I got her as a coach. So Dave, Scott, and Chrissy, you're going to get together. We kind of kept it quiet. I was helping her out, and then I started looking at her whole program. Well, you know, the first thing I said to myself, I don't want to foul up her profile right now because she's doing a lot of things right. But what can we wiggle to correct? And I'll get to my point real quickly. The one thing I looked at was her mobility, her flexibility, and her strength. And she had no symmetry. Her left side was completely weak. And very specifically for her, her left gluteal muscle was like a bowl of butter. It wasn't like a piece of concrete. And so for a world championship, and I say tense that muscle, tense up your buttocks muscle and make that thing like a piece of cement. She said, I'm trying. And I said, well, I'd put my finger on it and I'd say, well, that's, you know, it's like, it's soft as can be. So she was, you know, she was possessed and just, you know, she saw, it was very blatant and flagrant that she had this inadequacy, yet she was world champion already one time when I got her. And I said, wow, if you can get this glute strength stronger, it's going to make you stronger on the bike. You're going to be able to run faster on the second half, on and on and on. And for her, as an endurance triathlete world champion, it was an easy ticket to rectify. And again, it's just one small part of it. But I've also seen athletes, coming back to what we were talking about, that eat real poorly, terrible, and they're still able to perform at a high level. But then you see them later on in life when they go into their 40s, even late 30s, and their athletic days are over, and they start putting on weight. A lot of them are pre-diabetic right away because they eat so poorly when they're exercising. And the exercise, because of the volume and intensity, it quells the diabetic response, whether it's uric acid or hemoglobin A1C or, you know, the bad cholesterol or whatever you're looking at as the markers. And I'm very familiar with these. And then all of a sudden they stop exercising and now they're sick. Their bodies are sick and they haven't taken care of themselves when they're athletes. And now they've really plummeted. And you see this with business people, as you mentioned. They're active in their 20s. They can get away with it with a crazy lifestyle. 30s, it starts catching up. 40s, they notice aging and they notice a lot of problems.
That's right. And I think we need to ask a very interesting question also, right? You know, the football guy, Tom Brady. I'm sorry, am I getting the name wrong? From Patriots?
Yeah, Tom Brady. Yeah, he played the Patriots. He's no longer there, but he has a long career.
Yeah, and Pete Rose from baseball. From India also we have guys like Virender Sehwag, where not fit looking at all, but they were really good players. That they could get a lot of, you know, they were really good in their game. I want to ask myself the question, and I think it's a very, very obvious question. If these guys were jacked and really fit, wouldn't they be even better players? I'm pretty sure the answer is yes. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, the simplistic answer is, you know, I don't care if you're a world champion, the example that you just gave, or Chrissy Wellington, the one that I just gave, is how do you get better? And I think when athletes, and it doesn't, you know, it's not just athletes. I said anyone, complacency in your health breeds mediocrity, and you get to a certain point and all of a sudden, you know, you think, oh, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm healthy, I'm eating this, or I'm drinking too much at night, or whatever it may be. This is my vice. I like really eating such and such and such and such. We know it's unhealthy, but I still do it. And look at me, you know, I've got really good muscles and I can perform well. And I just said, you're kidding yourself. You are kidding yourself, because when they're my age, 66 plus, be 67 in January, they will find out, and they'll get hit in the face well before they're my age and say, I'm unhealthy. So I think everyone is fooling themselves when they do that. And they just say, oh, I can do this. I'm going to tell everyone else to follow my lifestyle. And my reaction is, why are you so arrogant and why are you so ignorant? And don't give out advice that's not advice. So I'm harsh on on athletes, because I hear athletes as spokespeople for different companies. And if it's in the sort of the health realm and they say something, I'm all over them. And I have no restraint in just telling them, I'm sorry, but you're not doing the public justice by saying that, and you're really wrong. And here's the data you should read. I'm real science driven, so I like that part of it. But also, I think there's an anecdotal part as well. Like, hey, look at Vanish. He looks pretty healthy. He's doing a lot of things right. Look at Blake. He's doing a lot of things for his health quotient, and myself. People say, well, how do you stay youthful at 66? Well, I work at it. I work at it every day.
I mean, here's a question, Dave, that comes up in relation to that. And even I'm just kind of processing the whole, dialogue we've been having here. Man, I almost feel like it can almost be a bit overwhelming. Like I can't even remember half of some of the different terms you used of different physical processes going on in the body, other different supplements you had mentioned, people thinking about, oh, right, I got to stretch, to stay flexible. I got to do cardio. Part of me feels like this modern age, if I, put it in quotes, maybe, this modern age of health and wellness, I think for a lot of people, it can get to be overwhelming. It can get to be, wow, whereas 20 years ago, maybe there were a dozen supplements on the shelf. Now there's 400 supplements on the shelf, when I go to a store. And how on earth do I make how do I as an everyday average guy become educated enough to know what I should, what do I need, what I shouldn't need, and what I should take? So kind of distilling all that down, like for your average person, we're talking a lot about CBD because that's the focus, of the store, of course, and the industry, in India that we're working in. But just in general, like, let's say if you're speaking just to an average individual, average all across the board, like, what are the four most important supplements that someone should take? And then in addition, what are the couple of just most important just daily wellness practices someone should have aside from supplements? So I'm curious, just if you're trying to simplify it down, hey, if someone listens to this and they walk away, and just remembering anything, these are the top 4-ish, supplements that probably would be good for someone's long-term health. And these are the top couple of just daily wellness things that everyone maybe should do.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Well stated, and a very good question. I think we're smothered with a lot of misinformation. And so when you talk about supplements, there's different supplements that are categorized, adaptogens and vitamins and minerals and how they affect it. Let's say that, and obviously I've studied this my whole life. So, I'm always learning. It's not like, wow, I know everything. No, not at all. I look at the research. Okay, I should know more about that. So someone who's coming in there and they're getting overwhelmed by our conversation and all the super duper terms I've thrown out. I think what I would first ask, and I'm gonna buy these supplements because I think Dave Scott brought up this really important thing. How does it affect your whole body? How does it affect your whole body? So some just affect certain areas. So it's like a drug. Well, this will affect your heart. I look at, first off, how does it affect all my organs? And so the first on the list is I want a fat soluble X that's going to affect all my organs. In other words, it's contained in I'll give you an example. It's like a phospholipid, and it's going to affect my brain, my kidneys, my liver, my pancreas, my bile. And it's going to permeate all my aqueous membranes, my eye, the inside of my mouth, my lips. So now we're talking about a supplement that covers your whole body. It's like taking a shower in it. Number one on my list is krill omega-3, and not omega-3 mixed cold water fish. And there's lots of great cold water fish. People think of salmon, and that's one of many: sardines, anchovies, But krill.
Why krill? Yeah.
Well, because it's contained in what's called a phospholipid, and the phospholipid can move. It permeates water and fat-soluble membranes, so it can move through your system very, very quickly, and it will be absorbed by all your organs. When we have mixed omega-3s, where they're putting in gills and esophaguses and everything else and chopped up, and they say it's omega-3 and it's lots of different sources, we don't get it in the phospholipid. The krill is the densest form, and it also has an antioxidant that's in there, which is number 2 on my list, which is called astaxanthin, and I'll spell it.
Ooh.
ASTAXAN, and then thin, THIN, ASTAXANTHIN. I was taking astaxanthin before I get a paycheck from a company called BioAstin. It's actually made it's a cold water algae that's grown. It's grown right on the Kona coast. It's on the Ironman course. And I was taking, because I said the potency of this antioxidant, and it's fat soluble as well. My criteria is, and I said it's found in omega-3s, particularly salmon sources. It's very, very high, because the salmon eat the krill, and the krill contains the astaxanthin, and the pink of the salmon is the astaxanthin in there. So it's good for your heart, it's good for your joints, it's good for your muscles, it's good for your brain. So I love astaxanthin. I've been taking this for a long time, and it's one that you guys should look into. It's beautiful. I have a link on my website to BioAstin. You can read all about it. That's number 2. Number 3 probably wouldn't fall on a lot of people's lists, and I use this a lot, even though you may be outside like I am for many hours during the day, and we think our absorption of vitamin D3 is very, very high, but it's not, because of the environment that we live in. And so a lot of people's vitamin D3 levels, which act like a hormone, they affect every cell in your body, are too low. And if you're getting a blood test, in the States, they've dumbed them down, so you can't even get D3 as a simple blood test. But everyone should have their vitamin D3 levels checked, and it should be above 60 nanograms per milliliter. So the vitamin D3, because it affects every system, endocannabinoid, endocrine, urinary, circulatory, respiratory, it affects all your system. That's kind of my third one on my list. Vitamin D3 is synergistic with vitamin K2, so you have to take it at the same time. And magnesium, and the form of magnesium called magnesium threonate, THREONATE, is the only form of magnesium, based on data, that is fat soluble. So that's kind of an extended list. I kind of sort of gave you 3, 4, 5, but omega-3, astaxanthin, vitamin D3, along with vitamin K2 and magnesium.
And of course, CBD, top of the list, of course.
Well, yeah, and the nice thing is that they're synergistic. You put CBD with, and you guys know this, you put this with fat soluble.
Yeah.
It's huge. You had another part to your question, like what?
Well, the other part is the non-supplement stuff, and of course there's diet, right? Okay, and there could be a whole conversation about less saturated fats, less sugars. I think a lot of people are getting that. But let's say it is more like, what's the couple key takeaways of just general healthy lifestyle? So if someone remembers a couple things every day, whether it's breathing, whether it's stretching, whether it's a bit of cardio. What do you think are those absolutes? Hey, everyone out there, no matter where you live in the world, should be doing these couple of things every day.
Very good question. I think there's a couple things. If we look at age decline that people have, and we look at, and I think Vanish, you brought this up, in Boulder where I live, we have a lot of skinny fat people. In other words, we have athletic people that have lost their muscle mass, and we see over every decade, particularly in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and on up, where people lose muscle mass. And when they lose muscle mass, it's called sarcopenia. When we have the sarcopenia, loss of muscle mass, that affects balance and symmetry, body movement. So per your question, Blake, first thing that people should do is that they can do simple strength exercises, a push-up, downward, upward dog, a yoga move, where they're taking the exercise to hardy fatigue. You need to fatigue the muscle to get the benefit. And it produces a very, very favorable kind of protein called a myokine. So when people are doing exercise and they say, oh, I'm 65 years old, I'm using my age or close to, I say, okay, are you doing anything exercise-wise while you're out on your walk where you're doing something that you're going to fatigue? What's an example? Walk up and down stairs, or just up, down, and be nice and solid and square. Draw your belly in, keep your neck in a neutral position. Work your gluteals and your legs and your core at the same time. A step up is an easy example. A push-up, or even push-ups from your knees where you do a partial push-up and you're taking it to hardy fatigue. Doing 2 to 3 sets is huge, and so you can maintain muscle mass. 2 is, in conjunction with this, is mobility. And mobility is general movement that you have in a joint. And there's 3 big ones. Your shoulder joint. If I reach up and I'm grabbing something on a shelf and I reach high, and all of a sudden I think, oh gosh, I feel it pulling my shoulder, my back. I feel this in my neck. I can feel it radiating through my head. Very common. Increase that range of motion just by reaching up to the top of the door, stretching. So you're stretching your pecs. I was pecking on you earlier, because your pecs affect your overhead. This is shoulder flexion. When your arm is reaching overhead, shoulder flexion. Shoulders, number 1. The middle part of your spine, your thoracic spine, having rotation from side to side, and I'm doing it on camera, where I'm just twisting, even doing twist motions and sort of bending down, where you're not doing everything in the sagittal plane, you're doing this transverse plane, keeping your thoracic spine rotation so your low back and your neck don't take the load, your lumbar and cervical spine don't get the abuse, and getting thoracic spine length. Hang from a tree limb and see if you can stretch everything out, and if you're just starting, just put your toes on the ground, come up on your tiptoes and reach up and hang there for a minute. Shake your arms out. Do it again. Extension and rotation of thoracic spine. The last one's your hips. And so those are the big 3: shoulders, thoracic spine, hips. And your hips, and Vanish, you know this well from your MMA days, range of motion in your hips is huge. And even just making, as you're out for a walk, you drawing your knee up in flexion, externally rotating your knee, making a big circle with that leg, and doing it on one leg. So if I'm standing on my left leg, let's say I'm standing on the side of the curb, and I'm swinging my right leg around in the biggest circle possible. And then I'm spreading my legs out real wide, and I'm squatting down as low as I can. So I'm getting my bum down near the ground. And you're rocking side to side. Cricket players do that well. As you're getting down low and you're elongating the muscles in your hamstring and your leg, but you're really getting mobility in your hips. So those are kind of the big 2.
Generating sidewards torque.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm awesome. I'm kind of nuts about that. And I think, Blake, you're easy one to pick on. If you're just going into the gym and you're not increasing your range of motion, you will get tighter and tighter. And you can be strong as an ox, but your range of motion is going to be the limiter.
It's true. And even when I do yoga, like I watch my wife do it, and her arm will be like back behind her head, just
exactly.
over, I'm like, how do you do that? There's no way my arm would go back.
And that's a beautiful example. Just interlacing your fingers. And there's a number of wonderful shots when Michael Phelps was in his heyday, and it shows streamlined position, and he has his fingers interlaced, and he's extending his arms over his head, and you can see that the inner side of his biceps are almost touching.
It's crazy.
See, Vanish, that's what we're talking about. So Vanish, post
not fair.
Post that shot of you doing that, and then you're gonna start selling CBD. Put your
I swear, we
behind your head.
Yes, standards that this suck. My yoga skills would be considered pretty below average at best.
Yeah. Well, I think you could teach Blake and I a class right now, so I'll sign up.
I don't know, David. Sounds like we gotta get you out to India and do some workshops and
that'd be great,
man. All your knowledge. The stuff that you know about all this, the supplements and the human biochemistry is unbelievable. It's really, really
well. I'd love to come to India, and actually, I have met some. There was a small handful, and I'm trying to think if they were at the 70.3 is half of the Ironman distance. So you know, in the States we use miles, which is unfortunate. I know kilometer, I know the metric system well. So it's 70.3. It's half of the distance, and that's 70.3 has a world championship. So in Nice, France, where it was a couple of years ago, and South Africa, or a year ago, and then South Africa 2 years ago, I met some Indian athletes, triathletes. And I said to them, I said, they came up to me and they said, we're from India. This is our group. And they're doing triathlons. And I said, this is awesome. How many athletes do you have? You got 1.4 billion people. So you got a lot of people to pick from. But he said, well, we're just kind of starting. There's different clubs that have it. So yeah, I'd love to come out to India and do a workshop, not for the triathletes, but for health.
Definitely. And you won't believe that over the past 10 years, especially the kids in India, the youth is very hungry. Now you see that there are many decathlon stores all over the country. They sponsor very talented athletes. They hire very talented athletes, you know. And I'm sure everybody would be so eager to get guidance from a person who, like yourself, who has actually made it, because right now there is infrastructure is finally there. People's interest is finally there. The economy is good enough that they can afford to look into careers like this. What is missing is we have 1.4 billion people, but if we put up any basketball team, I'm sure most countries would beat the crap out of us, you know.
Right.
Or even there is no UFC fighter in Indian UFC fighter in also, you know. There is a particular reason behind this, because there is no guidance available from people who have been into it for a long time and know the little quirks of it here and there, you know. Certainly, even whatever you are sharing now, and also maybe in the future you come down and, you know, all of it is like audio gold, you know. It's we are very grateful.
Well, if we did put together some kind of workshop or multi-day clinic or whatever you wanted to call it, all the ones that I do, including what I was talking about at Four Seasons, and I have one in France, hopefully in 2021. I'll say they're all activity involved. So it's not just me lecturing. You're not just listening to me. We are on the ground. We are moving. We are doing analysis. We're in the gym. We're doing all the stuff we're talking about. Like, how do you do thoracic spine rotation? Well, I'm going to show you. No, and you're going to do it. So it's very interactive, and that's kind of how I teach. So we keep our dialogue going, and I'd love to come to India.
So cool.
Awesome to hear that. Just one more thing I must ask you, right? Let's assume I have a friend who's 50. He watches this video. He's like, hey, you know what? Dave Scott these days is competing still in Ironman. You are still competing, am I right?
No, I'm not. I'm not
but
competing.
Recently you did, right?
Pardon me?
Very recently you did, right?
You can go on forever and ever. Professionally, I did it. My last I had a 5-year hiatus. I came back when I was 40, and I got second overall. And then I missed when I was 41 because I broke my toe in the gym, Blake. I dropped I dropped a pretty heavy weight on my toe, looking at a good-looking woman, and that broke my toe. So I didn't do that. Was unfortunate. And so I came back in 96, and I was 5th in 96 when I was 42. But I haven't raced. I still, and when we get off this call, I'm going for a bike ride. I have actually another podcast later on today, and I have an assistant that comes in. So, but I'm not racing anymore, and I will swim probably later today if I have time.
So Dave, what would you tell? Say I have a friend who's 50. He wants to be able to run as much as you can. He wants to be able to swim as much as you can. And the last 20 years, sadly, he spent behind the desk.
Yeah.
But now now finally he's made his money. He's got his home. You know, the kids are married. So that story is over.
Right.
So now he wants to give a shot at health. So what would you tell a guy like that? Would CBD help him maybe, start his journey late, or would a combination of everything? Or is it even possible for him to be as fit as Dave Scott when he's starting out so late?
Here's my ego. No, he's not going to be as fit as me, but he's, He
And I
can
think
make,
part of
yeah.
this is something nicer.
Yeah, but Venetia, that's a very arrogant comment. But I think when we're looking at someone who's 50, and I have athletes that I talk to that are in their 70s that are, now they've gone 20 more years. Can I get back in shape? The very simple answer is absolutely. And so the first thing they do is they really look at their calendar, and they got to sit down with this where they say, I can allocate what's reasonable. X time per day, and they write it down on that day. And I also say on 2 of the days, if you get busy for whatever reason, families, occupation, whatever it is, on those 2 days, can you go to a different time? Can you, if you're going to be in the morning, can you go later in the day? So you write down those 2 extra times, but you have to put it in a schedule like this guy you're talking about, who made his money, was well-defined business-wise. He has to treat exercise as the highest priority right now. It fits into his schedule. It's not a priority. No, it's the highest priority because he's going after his health, which he's neglected. So it supersedes, gosh, I'd really like to make that conference call at 7 a.m., but I've got another business appointment. That's his exercise. And that's how it's got to be phrased. So yes, this person can make huge inroads. I start with a week. I put down the reasonable hours that they can do it, 2 extra days that they can put it in. I tell them to do something every day. So even if they have an easy day or a day with their family, do something with the family. Get out there for 20 or 30 minutes and start moving. It's probably good for the kids. So that's the first start, and then hit on the areas that we kind of discussed. I have a newsletter. I'm easy to find. You have all my contact information. People can sign up for my newsletter, and it has a lot of information. I mean, I talk about supplements. I talk about exercise. I have videos on it. It's free. It comes out twice a month. There's no obligation other than just look at it, read it, and if you enjoy it, then you can send me a question too. So this guy in my newsletter, and I've given this name, the man. You can ask the man questions on all the stuff we talked about or on his exercise. I do a lot of videos where I say, hey, I had a question from so-and-so from India, and it was on this. It's an easy way. I can give hopefully a direct answer, a personalized answer.
Awesome. Dave, thank you so much for your time, man. We just appreciate it so much. Really.
Again, very grateful, and it's been an absolute pleasure.
Well, pleasure for me. Also, I will share your link, your information. So when you're ready to put it out, I'll put it on my social media as well. And, it will go to a population that hopefully has this broad interest in CBD, which was our main topic.
And man, you got to let us know when your product line is ready. We'll get that CBD in market in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
We've been talking, so it's not.
One last question, please.
Sure.
So let's assume I hit the gym today, right? I'm pretty sore. Will CBD help me recover faster and have my next session a little sooner?
Yes. That's one of the things. Inflammation is within the soft tissue and also the joints. So when we get inflammation, there's more water that comes in. A lot of times you don't see this edema or swelling, but you feel it. You say, oh, my arms are sore. My lateral quad is real sore. So you take the CBD to enhance the recovery and take those supplements I mentioned and eat better and get some sleep and on and on. But the CBD does help. So, I recommend it for the athletes. It'll help you recover. Get on it. Works beautifully with astaxanthin and omega-3s.
And there is one other question that comes up too. When we did this list, we have this list of questions and we kind of flown all around. Yeah. I think we've talked.
Cancel all your appointments. We are going to have
This is the last one. I promise. It's the last one.
I gotta have my coffee.
I feel this is an important one though, because we've talked a lot about a lot of these sort of positive things to do, right? Here's diet change. Here's things you can do diet. Here's things you can do with supplements. Here's things about physical practices. To be aware of. I swear, if there's anything that I'm highly aware of in life, and Vinesh, I assume it's the same in India too. It's that we live in this, and I'm going to put it in quotes. We live in this modern time. Right. And I really do put it in quotes because I wonder sometimes how much happier, healthier we are with all of this modernness. everyone, I mean, here's my phone, you know, it pains me to say it, you know, this phone is like, it's never more than a couple feet away from me, right? There you go, right? I live by this all the time. And, you know, like you talk about my shoulders being hunched in, right? I'm on the computer all the time. I'm on my phone, and heck yeah, I mean, I try to get out. I try to, you know, do what I can outside, but modern life has me on my phone all the time, on the computer. Food, I feel like my days are constantly packed with, you know, with okay, this is my to-do list. I got this, which means I got to eat fast. You know, I got to plan, okay, you know, wait, what am I grabbing here? You know, quick there. Okay, I got to move on to my next thing. I'm curious, you know, in this world of modern life, for all of us in the world, you know, it's everywhere. Like, what do you think are the real detriments to all that? And what do you feel, Dave, are like the what's the stuff we should be careful of? Just to be like, hey, you know, modern life maybe have certain advantages, but like, watch out, you know, there's downsides to all these advances, you know, that are happening. I'd just be curious to get your thoughts on the detriments of this modern life that we all find ourselves in, whether it's the US or India. We're all in it.
Yeah, we're all the same. I mean, there's a couple things that have great data on there. Sounds so simplistic. Don't sit for over an hour at one time and get up and walk around. So people that even exercise and they come at their desk, it's the same thing. I was waiting for you. We're on this interview. I'm not saying I'm waiting for you, but it's now been an hour and a half. I can't wait to get up and move. So it supersedes my first rule of thumb. You're at your desk, get up. It allows your mind to break, but it also allows your lymphatic and your physiological system just to be re-lubricated for a better thing. Try to stand up for at least 10 minutes, not just stand up by your desk and get down again. Move your shoulders and arms and head. Put your computer screen down. The second one is put your computer screen down at night, at least 2 hours before you're going to bed. And a lot of people, you know, jump into bed with their laptop on their lap or their iPad or whatever they have. You've got to turn it off. You've got to turn down the screen, the brightness of that screen, which is compatible with keeping your brain wired the wrong way and trying to stay with modern times. So 2 hours before you go to bed, that's it. Okay, so it's the ultimatum that you're going to give you. You're going to close off your stuff. You're going to turn off all your electronics, and you're going to get away from that. Those are the two things. And I'll just say that, and we've kind of hit on this. I'm really crazy about people reducing the total carbohydrate, sugar intake that they have in polyunsaturated fats, which will really affect your energy organelle and your recovery and your energy organelle called the mitochondria. And you just have got to clean up your diet, because then all of a sudden you're going to have this calmness and clarity, and your CBD is going to work a lot better.
Well, I feel good, man, because I am at my standing desk right now. I don't sit down at all.
That's beautiful.
I try to never sit down during the day.
That's awesome. No, I'm anxious. I got to get up.
Awesome. We have kept you sitting down too long, man. Dude, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Boom, from the bottom of our hearts.
Do an interview on an elliptical or a treadmill, all three of us.
That's right. Right.
Well, thank you, Blake. Thanks, Vinesh. So it's been fun chatting with you. So let's stay in touch, and maybe we can work out something. I come out to India and chat with your folks. So
I would know that definitely.
That would be great. Okay. Cheers.
Have a great day, Dave.
Yeah,
Thanks,
you
buddy.
too. Yeah.
All right.
Bye. Bye.
Great day.